So guys, don't forget to subscribe and check out my other cosplays on my Facebook, Instagram, or my website, or support me on Ko-fi or Patreon if you like my work. So first thing is first, we're going to start off with some masking tape and some plastic foil to make our pattern. Now, the armor from Vegeta generally goes up to his navel, so that's the focus you'll have when you actually work on wrapping yourself in this wonderful plastic foil. I am wrapping myself in here. It's very difficult to do it yourself, so I do recommend you have a friend or somebody else help you with that. But if you can't, it is still manageable, albeit it might take a bit longer and it might get on your nerves. And then you might get upset Vegeta style. Hell yeah. So the very next thing you're going to do is you're going to take some masking tape and you're going to cover your entire upper body in that. Next thing, you will take a marker and you will draw on essentially the lines where your armor will be opening and closing on the side of your torso, just like that. So try to make that balanced. I'm just doing it with some feeling. Then you're going to draw on the pattern super roughly onto the armor. I did this while looking at my laptop and just freehand drawing it. You can do it in a different way, but as I'm relatively good at drawing, I just decided to do it in this way. So just trace that pattern roughly on with some marker. Once again, these are the lines where your armor will be opening and closing, where the Velcro will be attached later on. So I'm just tracing that. You're going to start cutting open the pattern at the top, and then you're going to aim for the sides. So just cut that open. It's enough if you cut just one side so that you can open this shell of a pattern. And voila, this is your pattern officially cut out. Very good. To make your armor, you're going to need some HD craft foam, which I got from Cosplay Belgium. I'll attach the link in the comments. To make sure that the pattern is slightly more stable, you're going to take some Bristol board and you're just going to tape that down to the floor. And you're basically going to transfer your masking tape pattern onto that, just like that. Then you're going to attach that with some tape to make sure that that doesn't slip around or move around. Next thing is you'll take a baking sheet, and you would have ideally traced your design onto the baking sheet with pencil already. So here I'm just going over that with marker again. Now I did this freehand by looking at the screen, but you can also find patterns online. And here I'm just essentially tracing the outline onto the baking sheet. Just like that, voila. So you're going to cut out that baking sheet template. You're going to fix it up a little at the edges, see that it all fits. And then you're going to roughly draw around that template and make sure that you join that up with the rest. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm trying to make the armor more symmetrical. I do a lot of my things freehand, and I'm not really into measurements, and I'm too impatient for that. So I just try to do this freehand right now, and I'm trying to show you the process of how I do it. It doesn't always make sense, but I'm essentially eyeballing the measurements and eyeballing the symmetry here and trying to get it just right. So here I am drawing essentially the collar on, and I'm trying to adjust and fix the original template, which is on the yellow Bristol board, to fit the one that I just cut out of the baking sheet. So yeah, so I'm just now tracing around this baking sheet template, trying to figure out what will be positioned. So once that is done, you're going to cut out the new template, and I like to leave a bit of space just in case I need to make adjustments later on, so I sometimes don't cut too close to the lines. Then you're going to take the baking sheet template for the back, and just to make sure that the front and the back plate do match up, you're going to draw a joint, joining them, just like that. And you're going to roughly eyeball the position of the back plate to mimic the front plate. So once again, just eyeballing that. There's no measurements, nothing specific here. Just trying to get it nice and symmetrical. Drawing the back pattern based on the front pattern. Next, I'm going to cut off the straps. We won't be needing those for what I need here. Just like that, we cut them off. Then you're going to trace this yellow pattern onto your foam, this cardboard pattern onto your foam, which has been ideally now amended. And then you're very slowly going to cut your foam. You're going to try to bend the foam in half to give it a bit of a nice curve, so you can also try the foam on yourself. And then you're going to take your baking paper pattern and you're going to very carefully place that so it lines up with the foam. And then you're going to cut off essentially just the breastplate part of it, because you're going to be adding essentially 1 to 2 breastplates on top of the foam to give it a bit of extra oomph and a bit of extra dimension. So you're just going to trace that breastplate pattern out on another sheet, going to cut that out. Then you're going to cut out the very, very fine lines that go around the chest armor. Just like that, because we'll be needing that later. Then you're going to cut out the pattern of the back armor, which you've also carefully adjusted hopefully at this point. And you're basically going to take the old front cardboard pattern and you're going to eyeball that with the back pattern, and you're just going to join the front and the back, and you're going to try to make that go as straight as possible. Just trying to make the armor symmetrical here, trying to make sure that the both halves match up. Sorry, that's bad grammar, that both of the halves match up. Yeah, and you're just going to cut that out very carefully, and you're going to make sure that those two line up, so you're going to just press them up against each other and eyeball that. Then you're going to draw your back pattern onto foam, again cut that out, and here we go. Do they match up? Yes, they do, they're symmetrical. So with some eyeballing and some common sense, you can get these two sides to match up, or you can just be clever and actually measure the whole thing. So here I'm just making sure I readjust the armor so it's 100% fitting. And then once again doing that. It's basically a trial and error process trying to get the armor to fit you, so you're gonna have to hold it up against your body and then over and over again. Anyway, here I'm taking two transparent spheres, and I'm basically drawing circles on top of my chest armor to give me a rough idea. and I'm going to also trace the upper chest armor onto the lower chest armor, and once again I'm going to draw circles here. You'll see why later. That's because this is the part where the armor will be raised to reflect pectoral muscles, or if you're female, breasts, or actually pectoral muscles, well, belong to both male and female, but in any case, to give it a bit of curve. Next, you're going to take a hot air gun and you're going to soften up the armor. You're going to try to curve it to go around your body, especially at the edges. So as you can tell, it's not fully adjusted, so here I'm adjusting it again, cutting the armor a bit to make it more fitted. As you can tell, it fits just about right. Next, you're going to try to make the breastplate curve a bit more. You're just going to heat that foam up with some hot air. But please make sure that you do this in a well-ventilated area, or you're going to get toxic poisoning, because the fumes from the foam are unfortunately not the nicest to breathe in. So just make sure that it's well ventilated, and you're just going to take that chest armor and heat it up over and over again, and then you're going to try to press it over the sphere, and you're going to do that at the part where you drew on the circles, which is why you need to have the circles there as a guide to where the pectorals will be. Otherwise your pectorals will be very, very asymmetrical. So you're just going to keep on doing that over and over again, heating, reheating, then reshaping the pectorals. Make sure that the pectorals are nice and symmetrical. And then you're going to do the same with your actual armor, with the actual torso armor. You're going to try to also exactly make the pectorals there. So you're going to do it on both parts. You're going to have to make sure that the top is a bit larger so it fits. Then you're going to make the actual belly armor. Now I used a ruler to roughly measure these bits, and what's important is that they don't go up entirely straight, because that just looks weird, and that's not, his armor kind of has a curve to it. So you're going to want to give it a slight curve, like almost a barrel-like curve when you're cutting the pieces. Tiny pieces that you're going to stick on. Then you're going to take some contact cement or some contact glue, which is extremely highly toxic. You also want to have good ventilation for that and area room. And you're going to apply that to the chest part and wait for that to dry. Then you're going to take some tubing. Now this is piping that I found at the hardware store. And you're going to cut that in half. You're going to cut that in half to make the lining of the armor. And this is actually great because it's kind of like a styrofoam foam material. So you can easily paint over that and it looks great on your armor. So you're going to cover that piping in glue and contact cement. So after gluing that and waiting for that contact cement to dry slightly so that you can press it on, you're going to arrange the panels for the armor. And then you're going to glue them. It's best to actually line them up in the order they're going to be in, otherwise you're going to get confused, because the panels are very different in their size and their shape and the way they slope. So you just put on some contact glue like that. Wait for that to dry and then you glue. I would suggest that you carefully look at some reference photos to correctly place the panels. Here I'm just putting a lot of pressure on the panels, gluing them down, making sure that they're centered, just like that. And then I'm taking the piping and I'm just gluing around the edges of the chest armor, and then I'm attaching the piping after waiting a certain amount of time for the contact glue to dry. And also I'm attaching a middle piping line between the chest, because that's what Saiyan armors have. Now remember to cut your piping in half, otherwise it'll be too bulky. Then you're going to try to close off the armor, the front tummy armor, or whatever you want to call it, with the panels, and you're just going to cut off a very thin strip of foam, just like that. This you get to make straight. And then you're going to make sure that you just adjust that, make sure that that fits. Once again, placing down the panels. And then the next step. After everything is glued, you're going to attach the Velcro straps. This is how we are going to close our armor. So you're just going to use some contact cement or some contact glue again. You're going to apply that to the Velcro and to the armor itself. To make the upper straps of your armor that go above the chest, you're going to just buy a cheap belt. I got this from the Euro shop, and it's basically very wide. You're going to use that. Then you're going to try to glue one side of your armor with Velcro strips, so you can easily open and close the armor. Just going to apply some contact glue to that, both sides, and then you're going to glue that down. The other side you're not going to need Velcro for. That side you are just going to close with super glue. You're just going to carefully apply the super glue in a very thin way to the edges. Next, we're going to glue down the straps. So here I'm just essentially hitting the edge of the belt with some contact glue, and then the inside of the armor with some contact glue. Make sure that that is pretty symmetrical, and then wait for the glue to dry. So basically I have just glued on the strap to the armor, and this is what the finished product looks like after you've glued the straps to the armor. After gluing everything, you're going to use some Plasti-Dip and some automotive shiny white spray paint to cover your armor. Now be aware that when you spray the Plasti-Dip that you cover it evenly, and make sure that it dries before you apply the white coat of spray paint. Be aware that the automotive spray does crack, and it's only good for damaged looking armor. Then you're going to take some Pebeo gold wax to actually paint on gold on the armor. For this, I'm just going to use a brush, and I'm going to carefully brush the wax on. Make sure to cover the sides with masking tape so that you don't end up getting your sides dirty with gold. Believe me, it's happened to me, and you don't want to go through another can of automotive spray paint. So just make sure to cover all of those corners up perfectly. Then I'm just going to color the straps gold as well. Just like that. And voila! This is what your armor will look like with just the gold and the white automotive spray paint. Please note that the automotive spray paint does crack and it's not flexible, so if you're going to stretch your armor and bend it around a lot after, don't apply automotive spray paint. There are plenty of flexible paint options. There's leather paint and a ton of other stuff one can use, but then don't use this. So this is just the armor in its unweathered and essentially very clean state. So as in the cartoon, as you can tell, it's incredibly shiny, and it actually looks like real armor where the pectorals are. That's because of the automotive paint, and that's the huge plus of the automotive paint. What I can recommend though is that you use an airbrush set. Personally, I don't like the clean look, so I did a battle damaged version of Vegeta's armor because I like to move into battle, and I did that with an airbrush system. And basically what I did is I diluted regular acrylic cheap paint very heavily with water, and then I airbrushed the edges with very light gray, slightly darker gray, and some black. And that just gave it a lot more dimension and made the armor pop out. It made it look a lot more three-dimensional. And in essence, I added battle damage in the form of scorch marks, blood marks with some rusty, dark reds, browns, and blacks. And these I layered over one another. And this basically gave it the battle damage look. I also made the golds slightly more dirty with some blacks and some browns to give it some dimension and to make it appear way more cool. So this is what the armor actually looks like on me. I'm still working on the wig, and I really hope you like the look of it. I'm doing a gender bend female Vegeta, and these are essentially the two versions of the female Vegeta I will be doing. The more sexy version's to the left and the accurate version is to the right. If you want to actually see the cosplay, the wig in progress, and everything else come alive, then don't forget to subscribe to my page, and also don't forget to visit my Facebook and my Instagram, as well as my other social media sites. And I really hope to see you guys around for more videos, and I hope you enjoy this. Hope it helps you to become a Saiyan as well.